Hello, folks, and welcome once again to the Lessons Learned podcast with myself and Chapelmon. Today, we're going to be discussing what I like to call good bad games. That is, games that we, for some reason, enjoy and love, but are not quite perfect. Less than perfect. With us, of course, is myself, Lessons Learned, and Chapelmon, who we're going to be talking about all this stuff. And we're also going to be talking about the news as they are, so to speak, today. So let's start with that, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
The news. Well, I think it's interesting. We're gonna start with. I think I want to start with none other than Rockstar Entertainment. Rockstar president. Well, let me read the news to you so you can get. Yeah. Rockstar has been working 100-hour weeks on Red Dead Redemption, according to studio co-founder Dan Houser, as he detailed the effort in the upcoming Wild West epic. He did this on the GameIndustry.biz website. We got an interview. Actually, no, the interview was with Vulture, but I got the news from them, and a lot of people have sort of been taken aback and going like, yeah, that's not good. That's not cool. Let's not say that we like that idea because no. How
I get,
about no?
yeah, I was complaining about working 60-hour 60-hour work weeks. 100, wow.
Yeah. I mean, that comes to essentially living in the office for what? How many months? I mean, we don't know how long this is, but it's been a while. It's like, we shouldn't do that. And I think it speaks to a much bigger problem that the industry has. We talked about this before on the podcast, and that's resource management. And, it's a combination of attitudes about how games are made and also um what constitutes a good work environment. I mean, his brother Sam told his side earlier this year, we poured everything we had into Red Dead Redemption 2. We have really pushed ourselves as hard as we can, results in a game that Dan claims 65 hours long, although 5 hours content have actually been cut, and boasts 300,000 animations, 500,000 lines of dialogue recorded by 700 voice actors, even more lines of code. So the game is huge, according to them.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's back in 2010, just a few months before the game launch, an open letter allegedly written on behalf of the wives of Rockstar San Diego employees claimed that the team was expected to work 60-hour weeks, 12-hour days, including Saturdays, or they would face disciplinary action. And this is the response in Rockstar letter to that one letter. We're saddened by any former members of the studio did not find their time here enjoyable, creatively fulfilling. I wish them well with finding an environment more suitable to their temperaments and needs. But the vast majority of our companies focus solely on delivering cutting-edge interactive entertainment. In other words, it's
Piss off.
it's the idea that it's a privilege
Yeah,
to work for a video game company.
that almost sounds as bad as Channel Austin's response to all their criticisms from former contributors, is saying, "We're sorry you felt that way," to all your legitimate problems.
Yeah, but this is something that has been echoed by other people as well. It's like, oh, you're working in a dream,
Yeah.
dream
Do
environment,
you
right?
realize how many people would want your job working on video games? Making those horse testicles go up and down with the leather.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, I mean, I love my. It's okay. Let me put it this way: it's very easy to turn a dream into a nightmare if you don't get any actual meaningful sleep. You don't get any social life, right? If you're
Oh yeah.
fat, if I got $100,000 a year job, and I have a family and kids, and parents and, significant others and lovers and friends, which I will never see for the foreseeable future. And oh, by the way, even if I turn out a successful product, there's a good chance like the studio might close anyway.
Yeah. So 100 hours a week, to put it in perspective, if you break it up for 7 days a week, that's less than 10 hours a day that you get to not work. And that's not including, so an average person needs about 8 hours sleep. So that gives you, that's pretty much you're commuting to work, eating and working, and then driving back, eating and going straight to bed.
And anybody who's done work, and yeah, we were talking about different work examples before the podcast. We don't have to go into that, but if you have to do that, then there's the pressure, because if you don't want to be the person who goes like, no, dude, I need to just grab a beer or something because it's Saturday night and I just need to unwind, right? Because everybody else is going like, but we need to work, right? And there's also the efficiency. I mean, people probably are sleeping in the keyboards, or what are they running on caffeine and methamphetamines? I mean, what's it's not. It just doesn't make any sense. And then the attitude that, oh, well, it's a privilege to work here. Wink, wink, nod, nod. If you don't want to be here, we'll kick you out the door. There's 20 people waiting to get your job, right? It's a bit too much. And I think James Sterling, when he discussed this news, he talked about, for example, the complaints that many developers had about Saga, voice actors, on the strikes. Like, well, we don't get to get any royalties. Yeah, because you don't have a guild and or union to defend you. And there is a growing movement to unionize game devs, which is getting already has been being preempted by major studios and publishers heavily, because of course unions. So it's like, no, and ultimately I think this is yet another news. And I know somebody who might be watching who is from the dev side is like, well, you don't know what it is like. You can always say, okay, fine. And I always said this, that my pet theory is that game development hasn't really grown up from the garage coder mentality, which is part of the privilege kind of thing. In other words, or the indie mentality, right? One person or 5 people, 10, 20, even 50 people doing something. You really don't have a lot of margins forever. So yeah, I suppose in that environment, you would want to, if you want to succeed, you would put in the hours. But Take-Two Interactive is a multi-billion-dollar company. Activision is a multi-billion-dollar company. Activision Blizzard is a multi-billion-dollar company. Ubisoft is a multi-billion-dollar company, right? They have the resource. They spent, and the last big success, which is now the most successful entertainment franchise ever, single product, GTA 5, they spent over $250 million to make that game. That game has made many more times that. So you got the money. And if you got the money and you're still doing crunch time, that means that it's all about the resources. It's not good leadership, and it's not...
It might also be like the cultural thing, like, oh, well, this is the way we've always done it. And
exactly,
people not moving away from that, even though they probably do have the resources to not have to crunch.
I mean, I would consider, and yes, I am an outsider. We are both outsiders of this, but I would think that if you have to crunch, that's a failure.
And from an outsider, from my own work experience, like you're working in an an entertainment industry. Like, no one is going to die if your employees don't stay overtime, and their work, no one's dependent on their work. Unlike what my line of work, we're caring for other living beings. We have to make sure that their needs are met, and everything, they're healthy, they're well taken care of, and we have to make sure that we measure up to that standard. So we have to like stay overtime. If we fail, someone might die.
Yeah. I mean, I work with hospitals with nurses and stuff like that, and they don't I mean, they work hard and they have long shifts
Yeah.
and all that. But there comes a point where somebody say, no, you cannot be 100 hours here because you're probably going to end up killing someone. Not a minute matter that you fail, somebody dies. That you will make a mistake that
And get
will
someone
hurt
hurt or
killing
someone injured.
injure exactly. So if you're working these kind of hours, you're probably essentially, I mean, about an 8 hour day, which most Americans usually work about 10 hours, more or less, depending on their job. So we work about 50 hours. So, Americans are known for being workaholics, so they work probably more than the average. But even then, probably only 6 hours out of the 8 hours, you're really being 4 to 6 hours, you're really being efficient. So
Mm-hmm.
the other two are just wasted. You're there, you're doing work, but you're not really putting your all. If this game is supposed to be so complex, so big, so sophisticated, wouldn't you want to spend a little more time working on it and getting really the best out of your employees?
And even then, how long has this game been in production? 7 years, and you still need a crunch?
Yeah, I think it's just like I said, it's sort of the attitudes that carry over from the days of the Garage Coder and the 16-year-old kid who also found himself in a multi-million-dollar company, making Doom or whatever, kid bashing whatever game they were making. And it's like, oh yeah, this is the best thing ever. Not anymore, right? And CEOs and stuff like that should stop trying to guilt their employees for wanting to live. Talking about CEOs, well, not really CEOs. We're going to be talking about companies anyway. Another piece of news of this week is that the Fallout 76 Platinum Edition, cost, according to PC Gamer, $115. Not a piece of news that is surprises anyone, except it doesn't include the actual game called Fallout 76.
So tell me, why again do they need microtransactions in the game when there's a major a macro transaction outside of the game?
Well, let me see. To quote a smarter person than I am, it's not that they want some of the money; it's that they want all of the money. And welcome Anna to the channel. And by the way, now that Anna is here, Anna the Unknown, let's do a little plug. If you see this on chat, it's because that is our new emote. So if you subscribe to first tier emote, that's what you get, as well, of course, announcements about upcoming shows and all that, and my cheerful voice as well. Every so often, every week, we also get Chapelman, who goes to Wondering, and that, of course, was done by Anna the Unknown, a member of our chat, and she also has her own channel, by the way. You should check it out as well. And a
It's
great
cute
artist.
emote.
It is a cute emote. I love it. I love it to pieces. I love the glass especially. It's supposed to represent sort of the image of the channel. So there you go. And we were talking about Fallout 76, and yes, you pay $115 is nearly twice what quote unquote the limit on video games cost is supposed to be, which is $60. But of course, we all know that is horsepucky. That's not true. And this is proof of this, right? It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna sell you a game. Well, we're gonna sell you the idea of a game, I suppose. Although, according to PC Gamer, they're bringing this up to quote them. But on Bethesda's side, it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear for careful readers that the Platinum Edition doesn't include the actual Fallout 76 game. It says it twice, even.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you don't want to miss that. This Amazon listing, where it's discounted at a few bucks, doesn't make it so clear. You have to click read more, even then it's way down at the bottom and in italics. The Platinum Edition also doesn't ship until December. Yeah. This is also the reason why I'm not playing. Everybody who's playing Assassin's Creed, I am playing Pathfinder Kingmaker. Listen, Pathfinder Kingmaker has a lot of bugs. It has had a lot of updates. But the starting edition of Pathfinder Kingmaker started at $40. So they actually see, that's the difference between this and Kingmaker, is that the actual game is actually discounted. They add more stuff, and you could end up paying more than $60, right? But the actual game is actually discounted. And the same thing when I played BattleTech, right? The actual game was under $60, which means when they added stuff to it, you get more. Now, these games are not huge. They're not Fallout 76. They're not the big AAA, game as service stuff. But you're not even starting at 60. Like Assassin's Creed, according to the No, when I saw the video on it, they said, oh, yeah, if you get the basic version, they basically assault you with a myriad of, hey, microtransactions, buy XP, do this, do that, blah, blah. But if you pay more, that is over $60, the mythical, ceiling for video game prices, then you don't get that. Why? Because they already got your money.
So, and I think I just find it so weird that they need all of this, because like I looked at their editions there. First off, I'm not going to buy this game because I refuse to support any kind of game, no matter how, I guess, intrigued I am by the IP. Like, I refuse to buy any game that is a fee to pay, as Jim Sterling would put it. I have to pay $60 and it's riddled with microtransactions. Won't play Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I refuse to play those kind of games or support them. So I wouldn't buy this. But I mean, their Power Armor edition, actually, I probably would, because it's like, oh, it comes with a helmet, a Power Armor modeled helmet, and it comes with their $80 tactitional steel case edition game for $200. So if you wanted to buy with this special edition, that's $115. If you bought the base game, it's $75. It's $175 altogether. So pay the extra $25 more and get the helmet. And my opinion too, that collector's edition comes with like useless crap that you would never use. Just like 3 journals, postcards. Who sends postcards? Like, I don't know. I got a postcard once from somebody because they went to like Hawaii, not like because they got like some collector's edition postcard. Oh, I'm gonna send it to my friend across town.
Yeah, it's again, it's the idea, and when people talk about the cost of making video games, well, this is part of the cost, because basically this is a promotional stuff. This is extra, but the game has to make off for that cost, because that tat might be plastic cheap tat, but you have to make how many versions of it? How many? It's like tens of thousands of plastic helmets and postcards and manuals and stuff like that. This was the kind of stuff that digital distribution was supposed to save us from, and apparently it isn't. So it's weird, I don't understand what the
and that's the thing too. Like, I think the collector's edition includes like some bonus DLC stuff, like, oh, here's some little additional perk things, but it can't give you even a digital copy. It comes with a case, like, here's a alternate cover promo mega collector's edition case for your game that this collector's edition doesn't come with. And they couldn't even include like a crappy like digital copy of it, like a code. Which of course would also be kind of weird. It's like, here's a digital code for the game, and here's your physical empty box copy.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's no different. That's no different than what PC like retailers sell now for PC games. It's just a lot of these games just come with an empty box and a promo code.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be worth it, to be honest. But there you have it. And you had a piece of news about Shenmue. Cancelled Shenmue remakes reveal video footage.
So I'm not entirely sure. The video that kind of revealed this was from Digital Foundry, but I'm not entirely sure where their source for this video footage is. So in it, they have essentially like a demo or a functioning demo of a Shenmue remake that the studio that I guess is working on Shenmue, revealed in terms of it looks like they weren't gonna just settle for making a crappy upscaled HD re-release of Shenmue 1 and 2, but they were gonna actually make it a remake with new textures and lighting and stuff. But for whatever reason, Sega decided to pull the plug on it, which I kind of found like, wait, so you guys started a Kickstarter that I think was set records when you guys revealed it in what, 2 E3s ago, that we're having a Kickstarter for Shenmue 3, and it broke records, and you guys couldn't afford to make an actual good HD remake of the Shenmue 1 and 2.
Mm.
Because from my understanding, Shenmue 1 and 2, this HD re-release was crap. And I've listened to some of those audio files, like, okay, sure, this might have been a really low budget game at the time, but you guys don't have like the source codes to lying around and just kind of touch up some of the audio, like make it less crappy sounding at all. You can't filter it through what I use, like Audacity, to kind of try to minimize the background noise from the cheap microphones that it was recorded on originally.
Yeah, I mean it's a thing, and it's disconcerting to say the least. Right?
Are we having technical difficulties on Twitch?
Yeah, and some drop frames on my side as well. I thought we had taken care of that. Apparently not.
No, but I just that's just kind of weird to me. That's like, we have this high grossing, Kickstarter for, we're kind of banking on people's nostalgia, but apparently I guess Sega doesn't really have that much faith in nostalgia if they just kind of released a crappy HD remake. And it's kind of odd because I'm looking at Yakuza. I'm like, Yakuza they've made 2 HD remakes of Yakuza 1 and 2, and those are selling great. Like, I just finished the first one and I have so much fun with it. I'm like, I picked up Yakuza 0 because of it. And I'm like, I'm looking at Yakuza 2 as well. I'm like, I think I'm gonna play that.
I mean, I don't. It's Sega has been for the longest of time just being extremely flaky on a lot of these fronts. It's like we do one thing that seems to be very clever, and then like 3 or 4 mistakes back to back. One would think that maybe they're afraid that they're gonna lose sales if they
or not going to make their money back.
Probably. But and I would think that it would be a setup for the game, right? That they would say, okay, you didn't play the original Shenmues. The Shenmue 3 is going to come back. You want to see what the originals were all about? Here's the HD version. Now, usually that's how it works, right? So.
So I'm wondering if that really should be like a black or a red flag for anybody. It's like,
probably. I mean, there's been Shenmue, I think, qualifies as one of those good bad games people talk about. A lot of people remember Shenmue fondly, but it don't.
I'm kind of looking at it. It's like,
it doesn't
look anything special.
Doesn't hold up to time. I think because back then you could do a lot of things that other games just didn't allow you to do. So there's that. But I don't think that in the long run is anything special. And it's weird. It's just weird. It's one of those decisions. It's like, yeah, if you want to promote your game, then this is the way to go. But apparently not. They're not that confident on it. So
Mm,
Were we
I
online
guess.
when YouTube went down a little while yesterday? Yes, I was. In fact, I was looking for ways to fix my two monitor problem I discussed earlier, and I couldn't get on YouTube. So I was like, oh, don't know why that
No,
happened. I don't know if it was just a malfunction on their side. I haven't had any updates on that. Um, it's it's fair. It's we haven't been able to. I haven't really investigated deeply because I was tearing my hair out, such as it is, because of my connection problems and my hardware problems.
hmm. YouTube was down this morning. I was so busy this morning I didn't
No,
even
no,
hop on
it
my
was I
computer.
think last night,
Oh,
yesterday, yeah, about 8 9 o'clock my time. So yeah, um, mm. and and now we're having a little bit problems with Twitch as well. I think on my side, a combination of my side and Twitch are not really syncing in. But we'll carry on. We've done it before, so we're gonna try to do it again. What other news do we have? News that perhaps we have a new PS5. Sony is hiring for the PS5 for designing the PS5. So as we suspected, we might have a PS5 somewhere around 2020 to 2021. Um, which is interesting and overdue, I suppose. Um,
I guess that's
are you looking forward to another PlayStation?
not really. I've only had my PlayStation for like a year.
I haven't had a console since I bought this computer. Basically, well, my last console was a 360, so I completely skipped this generation of consoles. But it seems that yeah, we're kind of overdue for a new machine or a new series of machines.
Well, yeah, I guess we are technically, but I guess I still have the previous generation on mine, which seemed to last longer than normally it
Hmm.
should have.
Yeah, and so we're here's to hoping that I think there's also been comments here and there like, yeah, Sony's gearing up for a new machine, but they'll probably be the last. People are coming on last. I think Microsoft is the one that's really jumping into it. There are also rumors that there might be a new Switch coming in next year.
Yeah, that actually doesn't surprise me because that's going to be them trying to patch up the physical exploit there is to getting custom firmware on and
Mm,
doing a bunch of homebrew stuff on that
yeah,
that involves their physical hardware, so they can't patch that out or update it through software.
yeah, especially with the ability to hack the machine. That they can't, it's a hardware problem, so they can't patch it out with software. I think already the new builds in like a couple of months have fixed that the hardware problem. So you want to be a hack, you want to hack the Switch, you have to get an earlier version of the Switch, which is not unusual. Again, that's something that happens a lot in most iterations. I mean, we saw multiple iterations of the 360 and the PlayStation Slim, the Xbox, whatever. So yeah, that's not really a new machine. It's not a new generation, so that doesn't surprise me. But I would say that perhaps they're looking to make a backwards compatible Switch so that they can still keep sales going. If the new, by the time 2020 21 drops and the new hardware is out there, then it won't be completely eclipsed of the new consoles.
Yeah, and I hope that Sony would actually make the PlayStation 5 backwards compatible with the very least PlayStation 4.
Mm-hmm. They seem to be committed to that. I think that's one of the things that both Microsoft and Sony, particularly Microsoft, again, trying to get any advantage they can so they can go back to the lead or at least close that gap with Sony. They're looking for backwards compatible, crossplay. They're now taking on a very, at least superficially, very pro-consumer air, right? The problem is that they don't have any games that make the Xbox, any versions of the Xbox stand out. So
Yeah, isn't there didn't Microsoft recently buy out a new studio recently, like this week?
there were rumors that they were buying out Obsidian.
Oh, Black Isle. Yeah,
Black Isle.
Obsidian. You're right.
Yeah, Black Isle hasn't been around for a while, so it's Obsidian. I don't. Well, Obsidian. What is Obsidian making right now? They don't really making huge games. They've gone back to sort of
Didn't they make
smaller
the? Didn't they make Pillars of Eternity?
one and two, yeah. And they made Tyranny, which didn't sell very well. And back in the day, they would make things like Fallout New Vegas, KOTOR 2,
Yeah.
and some others. Basically, they were trading everybody's coattails, but they're not. In fact, they're not really making any games that I would say are even console friendly. I suppose you
No.
can. I suppose you can. With Divinity. Divinity has console versions, the
Yeah.
Divinity 2. So I guess you can take those games and put it in a console.
You can, and I'm surprised, but I know Microsoft was being like, "Oh, Xbox One is now going to have uh, keyboard and mouse control," which my response was, "It didn't already." Like, isn't essentially an Xbox essentially just a PC, a specialized PC?
They have been keyboards and other peripheral like that for so many consoles in the past. The original Famicom, which became the NES, had one. I remember back in the day, Atari 2600, they promised essentially a keyboard was an overlay that you could put in. The ColecoVision could be converted into a home computer. Um, the PSX, which people call PS1, also had a keyboard and mouse adapter. The problem is most games don't use it, right?
Yeah, but I would think it'd have at least simple like plug and play like drivers or something like generic keyboard drivers.
Yeah,
So you can
USB.
just
The USB. Sorry, they plug through the USB connector, so that should work fine. And also, again, it's like there's a difference between here being on a desk, right? Like right now, and going to a sofa and it's like, oh, I need to put the keyboard and
yeah.
it's it's a different style of play, and still there is it's much easier to take a console game and put it on a PC because the only thing you got to do is pick up the controller, plug it in, and play. PC games are built under the very specific ideas that are not really truly compatible with console, right? Like the Halo games that came out, the Halo game 2, which is RTS. When you try to play an RTS on a console, which there have been many of them, but they're not quite as successful, in part because you have to truncate the control, simply because you don't have stuff like bandboxing, right? You can't group the units together quickly and just send them out. So it's a truncated experience, right? And even in FPSs, yeah, a lot of people play FPSs on console, but you got to use like auto aiming and stuff like that. So, and if you're used to that, why would you go to keyboard and mouse? I mean, kind of like the games that could really benefit from keyboard and mouse. Most people playing it won't use keyboard and mouse because they already have a solution for it, and the other ones, I there's not enough of a market, I think, for them. So
Yeah, so but I can totally see Microsoft doing something with Obsidian, even if it's remember that now they're kind of their strategy is that all their Xbox exclusives are technically not exclusive because you can play them on PC. So I think it could work, especially it's like if it's exclusive, I guess, to their Microsoft store.
I think the only people that would really benefit from a keyboard adapter and naturally support would be hackers.
True, because the funny thing, I played Vampire this summer, and there was a cheat or there was an exploit in it that you can gain infinite experience in this game if you plug in or a keyboard to the PlayStation and you press J while you're leveling up, and it just keeps filling your experience bar. First off, I don't know how anyone discovered that like exploit, and second, why was that even in there? I assume it's maybe a holdover from like their developer mode.
Yeah, they have the development boxes, and yes, you can usually plug a PC to them or plug a keyboard directly to them. to do kind of this kind of stuff, right? To get to the kernel, to mess with the OS and all that. So I guess somebody was doing that, and it was like, oh, I just want to probably somebody was trying to hack the PlayStation, and they had a keyboard adapted, and they tried different games. It's like, oh, oops, here we go, Jay, bye bye. Or somebody in the dev team talked to somebody else, and then that became the story that sort of filtered out into the internet.
Yeah,
once
so
after.
I'm not sure if they patched that out yet, or if at all.
Yeah.
But
well, talking about Vampire, I think that's a good intro to our good bad games talk of today. You mentioned that you were playing Vampire earlier today, earlier in the year, in the summer. But you
yeah,
yourself said that the game wasn't that great, but you're still enjoying
no,
it.
I would call that like it's a B. It's a mid-market game at most. That was my main complaint. It's a mid-market game with a triple A sticker price, unless we're gonna go with like the whole, games probably all need to be bumped up a little more. Then maybe $60 is supposed to be the new mid-market price entry point,
Mm-hmm.
but that's another discussion. Yeah, so I would consider that actually like one of those games that like this game isn't that great, but it's entertaining. And there's certain aspects that I found entertaining in terms of like I found the mechanics really entertaining. When it came to leveling up, it seems that the game will get easier if you kill innocent people because they offer more experience points. But if you try to be good and stuff, the enemies level up a lot faster than you do as the
Mm.
game progresses, and it gets very difficult if you try to be good. They also implemented this. I would say it's a very interesting way to keep people from save scumming when it comes to making decisions and stuff. This game was almost like the polar opposite of Life is Strange, where it tried to like, oh, hey, you can use this rewind mechanic and undo your immediate decisions, and then like go back and see how people respond to other dialogue choices or decisions you make. This you the game will you only have one that you have various save files, but you don't have save slots within this save file. And every time you talk to somebody, the game auto saves. It
Mm.
always auto saves when you talk to somebody. And once you make the decision, it auto saves. It will, and the NPC might there sometimes you lose dialogue branches because you said the wrong thing that upset them, and now they won't talk to you
Mm.
about their personal issues anymore, and they refuse to talk to you, and now you can't go back and make amends in any kind of way.
So,
You would have to start the game over again.
that's interesting.
It is. So they kind of try to make you live with your decisions,
Mm.
which I found that kind of interesting. It's like, oh, okay, it's clever, but it kind of sucks at the same time, because if I want to see different various paths, I can't just make separate saves in different parts of the game. But and the animation isn't that great. But and some of it seemed a little off-putting. Like the game takes place in the mid 1910s, I think towards the end of World War One. And wow, we just happen to like play as the most socially progressive doctor of this era, of the Victorian English era ever, who's like runs into a homosexual couple and this interracial couple, and he's just totally okay with it. He's has no problem with it. He just tells them, "Oh, you just better be careful because we live in like an intolerant era." I'm like, okay, don't not. I know you believe that these social issues, you know, yeah, that's not a problem now, but that's not. Let's be a little realistic. Most people will not be open. It's
Yeah.
like, ooh, you guys, that's no. So there were some minor issues with dialogues and writing like that, but I could see myself wanting to play that game again. Granted, I probably would take advantage of that aforementioned J exploit.
Yeah. Well, I guess we have to define what I said a good bad game is.
Yeah, so I was kind of like looking at my library. It's like I don't have any bad games, but that's because it's like I'm like, okay, wait, like never mind. I'm biased with some of these games that are sitting in my collection because I enjoy them. But I think it's also important to recognize that these aren't the greatest of games.
yeah.
And that's opposed to something that's intentionally bad. Like I was thinking of like Shower with Your Dad Simulator, was it 2016 or something? Like that game was intentionally bad in its concept and presentation, and but then there's sort of like this hidden layer under it. So I wouldn't count that as a bad good game.
Yeah, I guess a good bad game would be a game that we enjoyed, we liked it, but it has issues and has significant issues as someone who go, yeah, this is not necessarily the best game ever, right? Um, so it's a toss up, and I think always reason why I
And
came up with this. Go ahead.
I would think it's also like a like if the fan base is low, like some more unofficial markers. Fan base is low. It didn't sell well. It's critically and commercially not well received. Maybe even.
Yeah, yeah, that's a one way. More like a cult classic kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about. I talk a little bit about earlier games. I mean, a lot of games that I remember when I was playing, say, in the 1990s. It's like, oh, I remember that game. That game was awesome, and when I was a kid, I was playing them a lot. But then I went back, say, through GOG, and I'm like, yeah, no, there's no quality of life stuff. The games is pretty slow, badly optimized. Like, I think one of the first games that I got on GOG was Master of Magic. And I remember playing that on the PC, early PC, and I was like, wow, this is a great game because it's a strategy game, and you can have like units, you can have like giant turtles and dragons, and you have these spells, and then there's this other world you can go to. And the thing is, I remember in my old PC, when you try to go to the other world, the game would just go crawl, right? Because it just couldn't handle, right? But now I'm going to have like a modern PC, right? That's a game that's like nearly 10, 15 years old. Of course, it's a great game. I'm going to play it. I tried playing, and the first thing I noticed is that the first of all the graphics, a lot of stuff just couldn't be seen because the graphics were just very blurry, and this EGA stuff, VGA stuff back in the day. And then also it's like it was slow. Like the game itself was like trying to navigate with a mouse. It was like, whoa, okay, let me get to this point right here. Oh, click. I'm like, okay, not gonna play this game. The original Master of Orion was kind of like the same thing. Pepsi Man for the PS1 is the best game in the world. It's terrible, and I still love it. Yeah, that could be a great example, Anna, about a good bad game, I suppose. A game you love, but it's a bit iffy at least.
Pepsi Man. Huh?
Pepsi Man. It's one of those games that came out, especially the Xbox had a lot of them. When the Xbox 360 came out, they had a lot of like garbage games.
I'm thinking of like the
Burger King Man.
The Burger King Man ones,
which are just bad, but you got it every time you went to get a burger at Burger King. So it was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll play it. I don't care, right? Another good bad game that I think, going back, I think more recent, anything by Bethesda, to be honest. Like, I love Fallout 3. And I'm one of those people who doesn't think that Fallout New Vegas is better. But I gotta admit that Fallout 3 had its big issues. And let me put it this way, it's bad things that in other games I would go, this is bad, but I'm willing to tolerate. I think that's also part of the definition. Like, we were talking about microtransactions and all that. Well, Fallout 3 had the part where they sold you the fix for the ending for $10 in DLC. Mm-hmm. It had what I like to call, especially the end game, the story was very much railroady, and you had like there were parts where like, oh, we're not gonna let you progress until the story happens, and you may have an arsenal, have a power armor, but you can't do anything about it. Like, spoilers for Fallout 3, which is like now close to 10 years old. There's a part where your dad is supposed to die, right? But the way they set it up, there's no way to stop it. It's going to happen, no matter what. Like it or not, that's going to happen. You got to watch it happen, right? And then in another part, you do a bunch of things, and then you like somebody throws like a grenade, and You're paralyzed. Boom, take you prisoner. And then you talk to a computer, and the computer's like, "Who wrote this dialogue?" Because not the kind of dialogue they think from a computer. It's like, this doesn't. There has to be another option here. I'm just what's going on here, right? It was the kind of thing that happens, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, that's not good, right? So, and the game, being a Bethesda game, has a bunch of bugs. Skyrim is even worse. If you want to play it on PC, you have to mod the game in order to get like the just the basic UI. Like, this is a basic UI thing. I love the game. I played hundreds of hours, probably over 1,000 hours in that game, but it's not good. Not really good. I mean, in the sort of basic quality stuff, right? Has a bunch of bugs. Um, some of the quests are broken. There's like 5 voices for like 200 characters. So you can literally be in a room where 3 characters have the same voice.
Oh my god, that
And they
yes.
basically say the same lines because they have the lines for whatever quest, like, oh, do you know my father? No, we're under attack. Oh, this is like, and I think what triggered this was that I was watching anime series, Sword Online Abridged, which is a parody of Sword Art Online. Which when I watched it, I liked it, but boy, was that anime really broken. I'm like, well, how does that apply to video games? And like Skyrim, Fallout 3, I would say Fallout 4, which I started playing. I didn't finish it, but I was enjoying it. But I was enjoying it for all the wrong reasons. I was enjoying it because and that's another thing about Fallout 3 as well, is that the most fun you can have in a Fallout game is to tell the story to F off. And the same thing with Skyrim. Oh, you have this story, forget the story. I'm gonna go and marry that girl over there or the guy over there across the world. I want to do the quest because I want to marry them, and I want to be the biggest real estate owner of houses in Skyrim that you can ever be, right? Or I'm gonna build like 20 villages and stations in the Commonwealth wasteland, right? It's like almost the game doesn't want you to play the way it is played. Like, the mechanics and the story are so segregated. That's like, this is not good writing in many ways, and it kind of loosely fits because it doesn't get in the way like some other stories, but at the same time it's like, well, and if you try to follow the story, you're gonna get murdered. Because if you try to go directly, it's like, oh yeah, I have to go through an area where there's like 15 super mutants and I have like a baseball bat. You could do it, but it's gonna be tough. You're gonna be murdered. So it's like, wow. Playing Kingmaker, it's a good game. I like it, but it is pretty buggy. And I know people have a lot of bugs, and it's like, and it has another pet peeve of mine, which is it relies a lot on hot fixes, right, on the patching culture. And like, that's not a good sign of good design, right? It's like, yeah.
Yeah, so I was just thinking of like the voices. Oh, you got a friend who's got Skyrim 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually played Skyrim on the PlayStation 3. It was all right. It did have its own weird quirks to it because Bethesda, I think, didn't really quite know how to work with the PlayStation 3.
Yeah.
But the whole voice thing you mentioned is another like bad good game was that I enjoyed, which was a spin-off of another series I enjoyed, which was Styx Styx Master of Shadows, which is it's a stealth game slash like murdery slashy game, and you play as a goblin, and he like this is supposed to be a prequel from like the original game he's from, which was of Orcs and Men. I really enjoyed that game. So I picked up this game. It's like, it wasn't very good. I mean, I'm not that big of a stealth. I don't particularly care for stealth games, but I managed to dredge through it because I found the character charming. I was interested in how all of this was going to play out. But, oh man, the voices. There was 2 guards there. So all the guards were voiced by 2 people, and you can tell. And then I looked at the credits. I'm like guard voices, and it only had 2 people listed under it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a terrible game. However, the most disappointing part is that they released a sequel, Sticks, the Shards of Darkness, or uh, and this game was terrible. It had the exact same issues as the first game, but with none of the charm. The writing for the dialogue, the character was just terrible. In terms that I I stopped playing it. I never picked it up because I just couldn't become invested in it. And I think that's something that's probably an attribute of, it's going to vary from person to person, but I think that's what makes one of, a bad game into a good game, is that you see something good in it, something enjoyable, that it's worth it for this person to dredge through whatever issues the game has and still finds enjoyment out of.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect description of another game made by one of our favorite companies, BioWare, and that is Neverwinter Nights.
Mm-hmm.
I've had got Neverwinter Nights on at least 4 computers. I got it when it came out originally, got the basic version, then I got the Diamond Edition with all the expansions. I have played a lot of Neverwinter Nights, modded and unmodded. But I tried to um, stream it earlier this year because I had the enhanced edition came out and I bought it. I was like, oh, I like this. It's the Neverwinter Nights, of course. And then I started playing and I realized that the basic version of the game is just boring. It's like, it's the graphics are outdated, but that's fine. It's kind of boring because it's just the game is just one MacGuffin hunt after another. Like, oh, go here and fetch these 4 things, and then in order to get one of the things, you gotta fetch 2 other things. So it's just literally you go from place to map, try to find out what they want, and usually it's oh, I can give you the piece of what you're looking for if you give me these 2 other things that you need, which is typical for CRPGs, but it's kind of boring. And like if I were to play it now, I usually play it cheating. What I really like about that game was the module construction. Like you can create your own little games.
Mm-hmm.
And host them and whatever and play with other people. I never actually hosted a game there, but it was fun. And that's really what kept the game going. And also because it allows me to cheat. Like I can go there, I can create a character, give him like plus 20 swords, plus 15 or 50 to damage resistance, whatever. And it's like I'm a level 1 character that has like plus 65 to strength or whatever. It's like, oh, you're a goblin, it has 3 hit points. And just do the game and just murder everything and just don't worry about whatever, right? The original story for like the base campaign is not even that surprising. It's like it's functional, but not it doesn't compare to anything that BioWare has done before or after, right?
I'm trying to. I played a little bit of Neverwinter Nights, and I couldn't even tell you anything about it other than I think. Like I couldn't tell you anything story based. I just remember like this one part where I had to essentially like have a drinking contest in a bar and to progress, and that's it. Like that's all I could tell you about it.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like that one is in order for you to get to that bar, which has a piece of the thing that you're looking to solve, that one MacGuffin hunt, you have to get either a series of coins or get a costume to get it together. So then you have to talk to the guy to get information, right? It's not atypical of CRPG, quest chains, but it was just, it got boring. It essentially was like a single player MMO, but sure.
Yeah, and all I remember is like I think I made an orc character as my starting character, and I had like an orc like companion. Like the companions, I think you just hire them and they don't really have any personality to them other than like voice actors, maybe like really baseline personality to them. It's like all I can remember is like I kind of wish I could make my characters bang. So, yeah, even as young as I was still a pervert and still wanting BioWare games that have characters that can bang.
Another BioWare game that I think really falls in there, we're both fans of and has a huge fandom, is the original Mass Effect.
Mm-hmm.
The original Mass Effect.
Oh yeah, the wonky shooting mechanics and weird power things. are the favorite line voices of enemies everywhere, and I will destroy you. The same voice lines playing over and over every time you encounter
The
enemies.
Mako, that if you don't, if you, I think you can in controller use a controller. It's slightly better than keyboard and mouse, but only just the endless sort of filler. Because I think what really kills that game is like the basic storyline. Like you go to the specific storyline areas and they're cool, right? You have like a lava planet. That's the best game series ever. It got better though, but the mechanics were because if you go to I'm gonna recruit Liara, okay, that's a pretty cool planet. You go to find her mother, that's another cool planet, right? And you have these things, and you go there, but everything else about the game, like for example, running around the Citadel. Oh boy, you gotta run out of the Citadel and run and run and run and go here and go back again and go there and go backtrack and talk to that guy over there, and then there's this other thing over there, and wow, that was a lot. And also all the little side planets, like a few of them were pretty cool, but when you have to do like 20 of them or 30 of them, and it's just land, go look for the mineral thing, go look for the base that looks exactly like every other base you've been there, because they're like I think they have 4 type of bases. They had the mine, they had the 2 level base, they had the roundel, the one that's underground, and I think there was another one. I don't remember which it was.
There's a cave. There's 2 like module different ones. There's like the one with like one large room and then like 2 rooms, like one on a second story that's just a very loose second story, and one on the bottom.
Yeah, and then you have the spaceship, which is the same spaceship, which is spaceship, which is a
Yep.
space station, which is another spaceship. Like literally, the only
It's
differences
it's
were
a spaceship and a space station.
the only difference is where they put the boxes in and the kind of enemies that you are, and also the enemies, because you go to see many planets. It's just repetitive. Right?
Yeah, there's a large room in the space station, and they would put like different boxes and make it like a little maze.
Yeah. So it was the same thing over and over again. And then the shooting mechanics were the powers were unbalanced. Like, oh, my biotics, some biotics you shoot up, is like nothing happens. They tag you and you're like, 4 or 5, biotic touches. You're like, you couldn't move, like, and then they gun you on the floor. We do that one of them, it's like nothing happened. But then you levitate somebody, they just go floating out. It's like, I gotta shoot you. Where the hell are you going, right? The powers were unbalanced. The gunplay was okay, sort of, but it was eventually. I will always get a assault rifle, because assault rifle had good range, good damage, and I would get the mod, so essentially would never overheat. So I would stand in the door, right? Okay, this is the door. Stand there and just hose down anything that came, like, okay, you're dead. Bullet punchy enemies, you're dead. You're dead. You're dead. You're dead. Okay, I'm done. Move to the next part. You're dead. And so the enemies would charge you wildly. Enemies everywhere. I was like, okay, right. I mean, I love the characters. Even the ship itself felt like it was incomplete. It didn't even have bathrooms. They had to put bathrooms in the second game. Like, where do people go sleep? Like, oh, there's some sleep pots there, which everybody can see you disrobing in front of everybody while they're having dinner or something. It's like, it felt very much like a transitional game. I love Mass Effect, but I think the reason also is like I really got sort of tired of it. Is like if you try to do to hit level 60, the accomplishment,
Yeah,
you have to grind all those planets.
yeah. You essentially have to grind all those planets in 2 playthroughs.
Yeah, well, I done it in a playthrough and a bit, because I done like maximize. Like for example, one of the things that happens in the game is if you're in the Mako and you kill something in the Mako, you get far less experience than you do it on foot.
Yeah.
So you have to do the trick where you whittle them down on the Mako. When they're a sliver of health, get down, shoot them, get the XP, get up again, right?
Yep.
And do that all those encounters, get the maximum XP, open all the lock boxes you can, because I also get XP as well. And then when you start a new game plus, it's like, oh, I talked to 3 people, got experience, level 60. That's it. You're done. You're not gonna level anything again. It's like, okay, fine, whatever, right? They did improve over the years. They improved the mechanics, but then one of the reasons why I didn't like Andromeda is like kind of repeated the same problems, like all these empty worlds with repetitive enemies. The
And
shooting mechanics were not as sharp as they were, especially the tactical aspects of it, like they were in Mass Effect
yeah,
3. It's like,
which,
man,
which is almost kind of funny when you think about it in terms of Dragon Age 2, which is like the opposite. It's like small corridors, but then the like repetitive, same stupid cave thing and stupid sewers thing that they just copied and paste.
I don't even think they copied and pasted. Just literally, they just take you back to the same map,
Yeah, it's
but
the same
their
map.
starting location is different. Like, oh, you start in this entrance or
Or
this entrance and this entrance.
and
That's
some
it.
of the weird little like extra rooms like have like a concrete wall just blocked off.
Yeah, they block that one off, so you don't go there. But if next, I mean, literally, I've been places where I gone. No, it's actually the same map because what they do is they block off some things, but then if you go to that map later on and you didn't pick up treasure, but you opened it, like you didn't empty it,
Yeah.
you can find the same treasure, which is
Oh.
much lower. You actually, it's like if you're like level 5 and you got like 50 gold or
Well,
something.
it would also explain why, like, even though like some of the rooms are blocked off, like the mini map
Yeah.
still has those rooms listed there. I still enjoy Dragon Age 2 for the record, even though it's a terrible game. uh, oh,
Sorry, yeah, we are talking about Dragon Age 2. We switched from Mass Effect 3 to Mass Effect to Dragon Age, which is usually a whipping horse in our. I know Chabamon loves it. He loves the game. It clearly for him. I didn't want to mention it, but it's clearly one of those good bad games, more like bad good games in my estimation. But yeah, in fact, I think we kind of bonded over the fact of how bad that game was because I make it videos and you watch them, you commented on them. It's like, oh, this is very interesting. Your take on this. So yeah, I mean, there's so many, and I think the reason why I brought all this is that you can love a game.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of people who actually love the game, and they just love the characters. They didn't win me over, so I think that's what the game. That's one of my criticisms. You go to my channel, Lessons Learned on YouTube. No one, just the name. The earliest videos are about Dragon Age, and one of the things I do comment on that is, I'll probably put it in the Discord so you can watch it if you want to. They're pretty long, and the audio is pretty bad because I had a worse microphone than I have to right now. But I think they're watchable. They're tolerable. The thing about it is that you can love a game, right? And there's nothing nobody can take that away from you, right? But isn't that love of the game is not the same. What we like and what is good are not necessarily the same way, right? They're not exactly the same thing, right? We can love things that are obscured. We can love things that are very popular. We can hate things that are obscure or hate things that are very popular, right? Or a combination of what have you, right? And I think even good, bad games still have lessons to tell us, plug for the channel, because they do have redeeming qualities, right?
Yeah.
And I think for me, something like Dragon Age 2, for example, it's like I see all the possibilities, all the things they could have done with the game, but for some reason they couldn't or they didn't.
Yeah, and I actually, a plug for my channel with I'm working on my last part of the Citadel review, and I try to, explain that, if you enjoy Citadel, like that's great. I mean, I'm not trying to take that away from you, but for me, like I just see like, all that kind of sticks in my head is, the inconsistencies, the lore, and the character, just them breaking it. But like I saw potential in there too. It's like you guys could have done this, this, and this too. And I kind of also tied that into what I was kind of hoping they would have learned for a fourth Mass Effect game, which no, they kind of didn't.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Anna points out there's someone to love, right? I think also the reason why we talk about it is that because I saw a post in Tumblr, of all places, of course, and I don't hate Tumblr. I actually like the place a lot. I hang out a lot, virtually speaking. But there was like a defense of Venom, right? Oh, the critic, and
Yeah.
this is something that happens a lot more in movies, but also you see in video games, like, oh, the critics don't know what they're talking about. They're elitist and stuff like that. And it's like, and we talked about this before, sort of the divide. It's like, well, the critics are not there to validate you. The critics are not infallible, too, right? Sometimes they
Hmm.
do forget that these products are for mass consumption, and there's a reason why these things are there. But again, just because someone says, "Hey," and I also suppose it's the way you say it, right? It's like, "Hey, listen." There's a difference, and I think it's going to be my final word, which I said before in this. There's a difference between pointing out that something's bad and even dragging it. Using very dirty language, very blah blah. Oh, this is bullshit. I hate it. Whatever, and expressing your hate for it, and an attack on people who love it. Right, because if I should say in the next sentence, "Oh, and you are X, Y, and Z because you like this, you must be this kind of person," that's a personal attack, right? Which I think I actually read a blog around the folks you're talking about. Yes,
Hmm.
and it's like there's a difference, right? And so, if you love something, it's yours. Nobody can take that away from you, right? And those experiences, I mean, I love Mass Effect. And I sometimes play it back, but then when I'm playing, I'm like, oh, now I remember this part. And you're like, well, I
Yeah.
guess I got to trudge to this, right? Because I don't want to be level 19 and get slaughtered by Sarah in the final fight. So might as well get some more experience, right? And stuff like that. Neverwinter Nights is like, oh, this is kind of boring. Hey, let me cheat so I can get my twin swords and all that, and then I'm having fun, right? We extract different values from every experience, right? And also I think it goes into the nostalgia thing. It's like we remember things, often we remember them wrong, right? Because either we didn't see these things or we didn't care, or that's whatever it is that it's a problem with the game, it's not something that bothers us for whatever reason. So you know maybe we should have a little more good bad games if companies like Bethesda and Ubisoft didn't um, slatter all their microtransactions. I want to say
Yeah.
one game that sort of reverses, which is a bad good game I played this year. I'm probably going to talk about later on in the year when I do my in-year review of the channel, and it's going to be Far Cry 5. Boy, I
Oh,
was
I'm sure you.
I was disappointed with that, but I have to admit that underneath all the dickering around with storytelling that Far Cry that Ubisoft did, the design team did for whatever reason, there's actually a good game there, right? If you were to take the story and go like throw it in a bin somewhere, throw it in a garbage somewhere, it's like okay, this doesn't work. Just play the game. It's an awesome, fun game. Right? I mean, it's a Far Cry game, so if you played Far Cry before, like Assassin's Creed, you played this before, but it does the Far Cry thing very well. Of course, if you want to play a Far Cry game that is actually fun and the story is actually makes it even better, I would suggest Blood Dragon. But that's just my suggestion. So again, my final thought is repeating myself is that hey, you love your games. There's yours. Whatever you love about them is perfectly valid. It's perfectly good, and no one can take that away from you. So with that said, Chapelmon, where can we find you on the interwebs?
You can find me on at Chopomon pretty much anywhere. I am Chopomon underscore Aragon on Twitter and on Twitch, and Chopomon on YouTube. I'm hoping that maybe this week or at the very least next week I'll have my last part of Mass Effect Citadel review done. Finally, after 4 years.
Which one I'm waiting for. And supposedly I have a cameo there. I don't know. That's heard about that. We'll see. We'll see. I'm waiting for that. And see how bad how badly I screwed up. Anyway, you can find me here, of course, in Lessons Learned 1 and Twitch and on YouTube under Lessons Learned. Rafa Writer on Tumblr and on Twitter. And if you want to support the channel, there are many, many ways to support the channel. The far-reaching ones, of course, are subbing and cheering, but you can also join us in chat, as Anna has done. You can, oh, by the way, if you sub, the first tier sub will get you a new emote, which we're working on to get more emotes online. So you get that. Thank you, Anna, again, for all the art you've done so far for the channel. You can go to a Discord, which is down below. You can join the chat, and you can follow us and just join our community, the Lessons Learned community. We try to have a weekly podcast every time we can. And if you want to know more about upcoming programs, the Discord is the best place to go. So thank you, Anna. Thank you, Chat. Thank you, Chapelmon, for joining us. And as always, we'll see you when we see you. Bye-bye.
Good night, everybody.